Some wild animals can recognize a human voice, follow commands, and even form real bonds with people, but those same animals can kill in seconds. Today, we are ranking 10 deadly wild animals humans have genuinely trained or tamed. Remember, tamed does not mean domesticated. Stay for number 1 and subscribe to Wild Wonders. Number 10, the grey wolf. The wolf is the perfect animal to begin with because it exposes the biggest trap in this entire subject. A wolf can look familiar. It can play, follow a person, seek attention, and form a relationship that appears almost dog-like. But a wolf is not simply a dog without a collar. In a controlled study of adult hand-raised wolves, researchers found that the animals formed individualized relationships with their human handlers. When separated from a familiar handler, the wolves showed more stress and more contact-seeking behavior than when an unfamiliar person left. They even appeared to use the handler as a kind of secure base. But there is a critical difference between a personal bond and domestication. Dogs inherited thousands of years of selection for living around people. A wolf's tolerance is more dependent on the individual, its early experience, the situation, and the human involved. The bond can be real without being a guarantee. Wild wolves rarely threaten people, but danger rises when they lose their fear of humans through feeding or repeated close contact. Habituation can turn distance into curiosity, and food conditioning can turn curiosity into insistence. A wolf does not need to become a movie monster to be lethal. It is a fast, muscular predator armed with gripping teeth and instincts built around chasing and subduing large prey. At close range, a human has none of the hide, speed, or natural weapons of the animals wolves evolved to confront. So yes, a wolf can know you. It can trust you. It may even miss you. But that relationship exists inside a wolf, not inside a dog wearing a wilder face. And number 9 does not need predatory instincts at all. It only needs enough room to accelerate. Number 9, the white rhinoceros. A white rhinoceros can weigh up to roughly 6,000 pounds and has been recorded moving at speeds near 40 miles per hour. That is not an animal charging toward you. That is a biological vehicle with no brakes, a horn in front, and enough momentum to make strength almost irrelevant. Rhinos are not hunting humans for food. Most dangerous encounters are defensive, reactive, or caused by an animal perceiving a threat. But from the human point of view, the reason for the charge matters far less than the mass behind it. Now, for the strange part. In professional care, rhinos can become remarkably cooperative. Wildlife specialists use operant conditioning and positive reinforcement to teach them to respond to whistles, clickers, targets, and carefully repeated routines. A rhino may learn to stand in a specific position, present part of its body, tolerate an ultrasound, or remain still for a blood draw. Instead of forcing a multi-ton animal through a stressful procedure, the animal participates voluntarily and receives a reward. That is real learning. It is also real trust, but it is not the same as removing the animal's defensive reactions. Training creates a communication channel. It does not delete the rhino's size, startle response, territorial behavior, pain, fear, or individual temperament. This pattern repeats throughout the list. The safest professionals take the danger most seriously. Barriers, escape routes, locks, and strict routines show that keepers understand what training can and cannot do. A cooperative rhino is still a rhino. The reward may control the next few seconds of behavior. It does not rewrite millions of years of evolution. At number 8, the weapon is smaller than a rhino's horn, but it can crack bones. And the mind behind it is far more socially complex than most people realize. Number 8, the spotted hyena. Popular culture turned the spotted hyena into a laughing coward that survives on leftovers. The real animal is far more impressive. Spotted hyenas are powerful hunters, brutally efficient feeders, and members of one of the most complicated societies found among carnivores. Their jaws and teeth are adapted to process materials that stop many other predators. A hyena can crush and consume bone, extracting nutrition from parts of a carcass that would be useless to most animals. But the truly surprising weapon is not in its mouth. It is in its mind. Spotted hyenas live in large, rank-based clans. They recognize individuals, track alliances, remember social status, and can understand relationships between other clan members. Researchers have compared important parts of their social intelligence with that of primates. In a hyena clan, knowing who is related to whom, Who outranks whom and who might support whom can determine whether an animal eats, retreats, fights, or survives. That intelligence helps explain one of the strangest human-predator relationships on Earth. In Harar, Ethiopia, wild spotted hyenas have entered the city for generations. A tradition developed in which local people fed them scraps, and certain human feeders built unusually close relationships with individual animals. One of the best known, Abbas Yusuf, learned the practice from his father. He calls the hyenas, recognizes regular visitors, and feeds wild animals at extremely close range. The hyenas are not pets. They still hunt, scavenge, compete, breed, and make their own decisions. Harar is a rare mixture of cultural tolerance, food conditioning, recognition, and long-term coexistence. Break the context, and the rule may disappear. The same brain that learns trust can also evaluate weakness, competition, danger, and opportunity. The same jaws that accept a small piece of meat can dismantle a large carcass. At number 7, we leave mammals behind. This animal can learn a recall cue, follow a colored target, enter a transport crate on command, and deliver a bite that combines cutting teeth with venom. Number 7, the Komodo dragon. The Komodo dragon is the largest living lizard. Exceptional individuals have exceeded 10 feet in length, and even an average adult looks less like a modern reptile than something designed for a prehistoric ambush. Its attack is often misunderstood. For years, the popular explanation was that Komodo dragons relied mainly on filthy, bacteria-filled saliva and waited for infection to kill the victim. That story is outdated. Their real weapon system is more immediate. Komodo dragons use sharp, serrated teeth to open deep wounds. Research has shown that venom can amplify the damage through anticoagulant effects and shock induction. In simple terms, the bite is built to cut, keep the wound bleeding, and rapidly weaken the prey. The dragon does not need a giant crocodile-style bite force when its teeth work like a row of biological blades. And yet, behind that terrifying mouth is an animal capable of learning detailed routines. At the Smithsonian's National Zoo, a Komodo dragon named Murphy was trained through positive reinforcement to participate voluntarily in healthcare. He learned to cooperate with procedures including awake radiographs and blood draws. At London Zoo, keepers describe teaching recall, target following, and crate training. The dragon learns that moving toward the correct object or location produces a reward. Notice the language professionals use: target, crate, barrier, voluntary participation. They do not say cuddling. A Komodo dragon may become calm around a familiar keeper. It may build a predictable working relationship. That does not mean the keeper has turned off its feeding response. Food is often the very tool that makes training possible, which means the reward and the danger are connected to the same motivation. One missed procedure, one poorly placed hand, or one moment in which the animal follows scent instead of a cue can change the entire situation. Number 6 takes reptile training to an even more unbelievable level. One famous individual did not merely enter a crate, it swam beside a human for years. Or, number 6, the crocodile. Crocodiles are built around patience and explosive violence. They can remain almost motionless, conceal most of the body underwater, and launch an attack across a distance that looks safe one moment earlier. Once the jaws close, the animal can drag, drown, crush, or roll its victim. That combination makes a large crocodile one of the worst animals on Earth to misread at close range. But crocodiles are not mindless reflex machines. Zoos use operant conditioning to teach crocodilians practical behaviors. They can learn to move toward a target, enter a crate, hold a position, and cooperate with visual inspections or veterinary care. The point is not entertainment. It is to avoid attempting to physically overpower an armored predator whenever it needs to be moved, weighed, or examined. Then there is Pocho. In Costa Rica, fisherman Gilberto Shedden, better known as Chito, found an injured American crocodile with a bullet wound in its head. He cared for the animal and later attempted to release it. According to Chito, the crocodile left the water and followed him home. Was Pocho tame? At the level of individual behavior, the word can fit. He had become habituated to one person and learned a repeated interaction. Was he domesticated? Not remotely. Pocho is a dangerous example to copy. He was one unusual animal with a serious head injury in one highly specific relationship, not proof that crocodiles are safe. And even Cheeto's confidence did not change the physics. At any moment, he was sharing water with a 15-foot ambush predator. There was no leash capable of stopping it, no strength advantage, and no guaranteed emergency exit. That is the darkest lesson in this countdown. A bond may be authentic and still be unsafe. Trust describes a relationship. It does not neutralize anatomy. And from here, the cases become even more sobering. The top 5 include an animal advertised as one of the best trained of its kind before it killed an experienced handler. The top 2 are stranger still. One hunts with culture and sound, while the other carried people into war without ever becoming truly domestic. Number 5, the grizzly bear. A grizzly bear can run at speeds a human cannot match, and it carries extraordinary power in its shoulders, neck, claws, and jaws. It does not have to perform a long attack to cause catastrophic injury. A bite, a swat, or the weight of the animal itself can be enough. Bears are also curious, adaptable, food-motivated, and capable of learning complex routines. Those qualities have led people to train them for film, television, staged performances, and animal care procedures. The problem is that skill can create an illusion of control. In 2008, a male grizzly named Rocky killed handler Stephen Miller during a filmed training session in California. Rocky had appeared in a major movie and was promoted as one of the best-trained grizzly bears in show business. 3 experienced handlers were present. Officials reported no known previous mishaps involving the bear, and investigators were initially unsure what had triggered the attack. Rocky bit Miller in the neck. The event was over with the speed that makes this subject so uncomfortable. Training can increase predictability and teach a bear to enter a space, touch a target, or hold a position, but it cannot remove every response to pain, excitement, surprise, competition, or frustration, and it cannot make a human body withstand a serious reaction from a 700-pound carnivore. This is why professional care for dangerous animals relies on protected contact. The animal and the keeper communicate through a secure barrier. Cooperation is rewarded, but safety does not depend on the animal choosing correctly every second of every day. The bear does not have to become angry in a human sense. It only has to react with bear-level force. Number 4 looks slower, rounder, and almost comical. It is heavier than the bear, surprisingly fast on land, and technically cannot even swim. Number 4, the hippopotamus. A hippopotamus looks as if evolution built a sofa, added 4 short legs, and then attached one of the most intimidating mouths on the continent. Adult male river hippos can exceed 9,000 pounds. They can reach about 15 miles per hour on land, and their canine teeth can grow to roughly 20 inches. They are not sleek predators, but they can crush, bite, trample, and overturn with a combination of mass and aggression that leaves very little room for human error. Here is the fact that surprises almost everyone. Hippos cannot truly swim, and they are too dense to float. Underwater, they push off the bottom or move along the riverbed in a kind of slow-motion gallop. That makes them look graceful through glass, but in shallow water it also means they can launch their entire body toward a threat. So, how do you perform dental work on an animal with a mouth large enough to make the veterinarian disappear? You train it. At the San Diego Zoo, a female hippo was trained for about 6 months to hold her mouth open using a target spoon. Each correct response was rewarded with hay. That voluntary behavior allowed specialists to trim her tusks without trying to physically restrain a multi-ton animal. But the open mouth is not safe because the hippo has become gentle. It is safer because the procedure is controlled, rewarded, practiced, and supported by barriers and trained staff. Hippos are not hunting people. Their danger comes from defense, territorial conflict, calves, blocked routes to water, and almost no margin for error once a confrontation begins. Training reduces uncertainty. Familiarity can reduce fear. Neither one makes a person stronger than a hippo. At number 3, training can become so polished that the animal appears to be a performer, but accredited keepers still refuse to share an enclosure with it. Number 3, the tiger. The tiger is the largest cat species on Earth. A large male Amur tiger can weigh around 660 pounds and stretch roughly 10 feet from nose to tail. Every part of that body is designed for a close-range ambush. Powerful forelimbs, retractable claws, a heavy skull, and jaws meant to secure struggling prey. Tigers can also be extraordinarily responsive to training. At the Smithsonian's National Zoo, keepers use positive reinforcement and target training to ask tigers to lie down, stand, place their paws against mesh, and present their teeth, eyes, belly, or feet for inspection. The sessions are voluntary. The tiger participates in its own medical care and receives a reward. The Smithsonian's keepers do not enter the enclosure with the tiger. Fences, locks, procedures, and double checks remain in place because a perfectly completed training session does not change what the animal is. A modern tragedy demonstrated that point again. In September 2025, animal handler Ryan Easley was killed during a big cat show at an Oklahoma preserve. According to the local sheriff, the tiger unexpectedly began biting and shaking him inside a large cage. The sheriff also said Easley had kept that particular tiger for quite some time. Time together had created familiarity. It had not created immunity. A tiger can recognize a handler, anticipate a routine, and perform complex behaviors. But a stumble, a turned back, a sudden sound, food conflict, or predatory arousal can change a moment faster than a person can react. This is what makes tigers so deceptive in captivity. Their movements can be quiet and controlled right up until they are not. There may be no long warning sequence, and there is no realistic physical contest once a serious attack begins. A trained tiger has learned what often happens after a cue. It has not signed a contract promising that the cue will always be more important than instinct, emotion, or opportunity. Number 2 may be even more intelligent, far larger, and capable of learning not just signals, but entire social routines. Its wild populations pass hunting techniques down like traditions. Number 2, the orca. Despite the name killer whale, the orca is the largest member of the dolphin family, and a large animal can reach about 32 feet and weigh up to 11 tons. That size is only part of the threat. Orcas are apex predators with coordinated hunting strategies. They communicate through clicks, whistles, and pulsed calls. Different populations use distinctive calls that are learned and culturally transmitted. Their diets and hunting methods can also be shaped by culture. One population may specialize in salmon, while another in the same region targets marine mammals. In other words, an orca is not just powerful, it belongs to a society that teaches. That social intelligence also makes complex training possible. Using positive reinforcement, target recognition, and repeated communication, humans have taught captive orcas to perform precise movements, cooperate with medical procedures, and respond to long sequences of cues. In 2010, trainer Dawn Branchot was killed by the 6-ton orca Tilikum at SeaWorld in Florida. The United States Department of Labor reported that the animal grabbed her, pulled her underwater, repeatedly struck and thrashed her, and prevented her escape. The investigation also noted that Tilikum had previously been involved in the death of another trainer and that staff were already prohibited from swimming with him. That case matters because it destroys a comforting assumption. Intelligence does not automatically make a dangerous animal safer. Intelligence improves communication and cooperation, but it also means the animal is learning, processing, and making decisions. An orca does not become a predictable machine after enough repetitions. And unlike most animals on this list, the human is almost completely helpless in the orca's environment. In deep water, the animal controls speed, direction, depth, access to air, and physical contact. A person cannot outrun it, overpower it, or simply step behind a barrier once the interaction has begun. This is not a claim that wild orcas routinely hunt humans. It is a reminder that documented cooperation and documented lethal capability can exist in the same species and even in the same individual. The orca earns second place because its mind is the reason people can work with it, and one reason the relationship is so difficult to reduce to simple obedience. But number 1 has an even longer history with us. It has transported people, moved forests, performed delicate medical behaviors, and served as a living tank in human wars. After thousands of years, it still remains genetically and behaviorally wild. Number 1, the elephant. No animal on this list creates a stronger illusion of domestication than the elephant. For millennia, people in Asia have captured, tamed, trained, ridden, and worked beside elephants. They carried rulers, hauled timber, moved supplies. built infrastructure, and entered battle wearing armor. A trained elephant can respond to vocal commands, hand signals, body gestures, and subtle pressure from a familiar handler. The cooperation can be so precise that the animal appears to function like an enormous horse. But elephants are not giant horses, and they were never domesticated in the same biological sense. True domestication requires human-controlled breeding and inherited change across many generations. Historically, elephant breeding was rarely controlled selectively for long enough to create a domestic lineage. Many working elephants were captured from the wild or born from wild fathers. Even captive-born elephants retain the biology and behavioral potential of wild elephants. Modern elephant care reveals just how much they can learn. With positive reinforcement, elephants can voluntarily shift between spaces, stand on scales, present their feet, ears, trunks, or other body parts, and cooperate with blood draws, radiographs, ultrasounds, and trunk washes. They can distinguish verbal and visual cues, remember long routines, and build individual relationships with caretakers. And modern professionals still use protected contact with adult elephants. A steel barrier remains between the human and the animal. That is not disrespect. It is the most honest form of respect. An elephant can weigh several tons. Its trunk can push, pull, lift, pin, or strike. Its feet can crush. Tusks can penetrate the body. Forensic reports of fatal attacks describe people killed suddenly by stomping, crushing, and tusk wounds. A handler may have decades of experience, but experience does not provide a physical way to stop an elephant that has decided to move through the space the person occupies. The danger is hardest to accept when the bond is close. An elephant may recognize a voice and cooperate daily, yet still react to pain, fear, social tension, frustration, reproductive state, or a cue the human missed. This does not make the bond fake, it makes the bond unequal. A human can love an elephant and still be physically irrelevant to it in a crisis. The animal does not need to intend murder. One forceful push, one defensive charge, or 1 second of redirected aggression can be fatal. That is why the elephant takes number 1, not because it is the most aggressive animal here, and not because it kills the most people. It takes first place because no other animal shows the difference between taming and domestication so clearly. Humans have worked with elephants for thousands of years. We have taught them astonishing behaviors. We have built cultures and industries around their cooperation. Yet, we never transformed them into domestic animals. We learned to communicate with something that remained wild. Training can create trust and cooperation, but it never removes an animal's wild nature. Which animal surprised you the most? Tell us in the comments, and subscribe to Wild Wonders for more unbelievable animal stories.